The first time I met Cha Eun-woo, I thought the universe was playing a cruel joke on me. No one should look that good in a black suit, with eyes like winter glass and a voice that sounded like an order even when he was just saying, "Good morning. My name is Jay Park, 26 years old, Omega, lover of silk shirts, iced lattes, and everything that glitters. I like being adored. I like expensive things. And I like being in control, most of the time. That's why I'd taken the job as his personal assistant. I thought I could handle him. I was wrong. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and the moment I stepped onto the 36th floor, the air felt heavier, like the building itself bowed to Eun-woo's will. "Morning, Mr. Park," the receptionist said with that sympathetic smile people always gave me lately. Everyone knew who I worked for. "Morning," I replied, swishing my tailored coat just enough to make it flutter dramatically. "Is he in yet?" "He's been in since 6, she whispered. "Be careful, he's in one of his moods." "When isn't he?" I thought, but just smiled sweetly and strutted toward the glass office at the end of the hall. I pushed open the door and there he was, sitting behind his desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, one hand holding a pen and the other resting against his temple. The city skyline stretched behind him like a painting. "Good morning, Mr. Cha," I said brightly, placing his coffee on the desk. "1 Americano, 3 shots, no sugar. Just like your personality." His eyes flicked up at me sharp, assessing. "You're late," he said. "It's 8:59. I said be here at 8:50. "I had to stop by the cafe downstairs," I said, arching a brow. "Your coffee doesn't magically appear." "It does if you're doing your job right," he murmured, signing something without looking at me. I rolled my eyes before I could stop myself. He noticed. He always noticed. "Did you just roll your eyes at me, Park J?" "No, sir. I think you imagined that." "Careful." His voice dropped lower and the faintest smirk curved his lips. "You know what happens when you talk back." A shiver ran down my spine. His tone wasn't threatening, it was intimate. Dangerous. The kind of warning that made my pulse quicken instead of my fear rising. I tried to look composed as I gathered files from his desk, pretending my hands weren't trembling slightly. We'd started off as boss and assistant. Then, the lines blurred. It happened one late night after work, months ago. I'd been fixing the schedule for his overseas meeting when he leaned over me, his scent, dark pine and musk, washing over me. His hand brushed mine and something in the air cracked open. That was the night everything changed. Since then, we never talked about what we were. He'd call me to his office after hours. Sometimes it was to review contracts. Sometimes it was for something else. He'd kiss me until my knees gave out and whisper things I pretended not to crave. He never said I like you. Never said you're mine. But he treated me like I belonged to him. "Jay," he said now, pulling me back to the present. "Cancel my dinner with Chairman Lee." "Cancelled," I replied, typing quickly. "Should I reschedule?" "No. I have other plans." "With whom?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. I met his eyes, trying to sound indifferent. He tilted his head slightly, that slow, infuriating smirk returning. "You're getting bold." "I'm just curious. It's part of my job." He stood up, moving around the desk until he was right in front of me. "Curiosity is dangerous, Jay." "So is boredom," I said lightly, but my heart was racing. He leaned closer, his breath ghosting over my ear. "You should know better than to provoke me when we're alone." I swallowed hard. "Maybe I like provoking you." For a long moment, silence stretched between us. Then, before I could blink, his hand was under my chin, tilting my face up. His lips brushed mine, soft at first, then firmer, possessive. The kiss tasted like black coffee and something that made my chest ache. When he pulled back, his eyes had darkened. "You drive me insane," he said. "You started it," I whispered. He gave a short, quiet laugh, the kind that never reached his eyes. "Go home early tonight. You look tired." I blinked. "That's new. You being considerate. Don't mistake it for kindness." He turned away, picking up his pen again. "I just don't want you falling asleep in my office again." I should have been annoyed. Instead I smiled. That was how we were, snapping at each other one second, tangled up in each other the next. By the time I got home that night, my mind was still full of him. My apartment was a reflection of me, white marble floors, a pink velvet sofa, scented candles everywhere. I poured myself a glass of wine and threw myself onto the couch. I told myself I didn't care what he did after work, that he wasn't mine to worry about. But I couldn't stop thinking about his other plans. The next morning, I walked into the office to find gossip swirling like perfume. "Did you hear? Theo Cha went to the gala last night, with an Omega," one of the assistants whispered. My heart skipped. "Who?" "Some model. Gorgeous, they say." I forced a laugh, pretending it didn't sting. "Good for him," I said, striding to my desk, though every step felt heavy. He didn't mention it when he came in. He acted like nothing happened. And maybe it hadn't, maybe it was just rumors. But something inside me cracked. By lunch I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed into his office without knocking. "Jay," he said flatly, glancing up. "Ever heard of knocking? Ever heard of honesty?" His brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" "The gala. You went with someone." He leaned back in his chair, unbothered. "And if I did?" I stared at him. My voice broke. "You kissed me yesterday. So. I laughed bitterly. "You don't get to do that and then go off with another Omega like I'm just some toy you use when you're bored." He stood up then, towering over me, his eyes cold. "You knew what this was, Jay." "Did I?" I snapped. "Because sometimes you act like you care. And sometimes you act like I don't exist." He said nothing. Just looked at me with that unreadable expression. That silence hurt more than any insult. I grabbed my bag, blinking hard. "I quit. Jay." "Don't," I said, my voice trembling. "Don't follow me this time." That night, I packed a single suitcase and disappeared. Changed my number. Deleted his contact. Told myself I was free. But freedom tasted bitter. Every place I went, I saw him. In the reflection of car windows, in the scent of coffee, in the shadow of every dream. For weeks I tried to forget. Until one rainy evening, a black car pulled up beside me as I was walking home. The tinted window rolled down and I saw those familiar eyes. "Get in," Unwoo said quietly. My breath caught. "How did you? Did you really think I wouldn't find you?" I took a shaky step back. "What do you want, Unwoo?" He got out of the car, rain beating on his shoulders. "You left without saying goodbye. You didn't deserve one." "Maybe not," he said, stepping closer. "But you're still mine, Jay." "I'm not your property," I hissed. "You can't just." "I can," he interrupted, his voice low, almost trembling with emotion. "And I will. You'll come with me. And if I don't?" He looked at me for a long time before saying softly, "Then I'll make you." I shivered, not from fear, but from the way his words wrapped around me like a promise and a curse at once. That night, everything I'd run from caught up with me. I didn't know it yet, but fate had already written the next chapter of our story, and it was only getting started. The rain didn't stop that night. It poured like the sky was punishing me for running away. And there he was, Unwoo, standing in the downpour, dark hair dripping, eyes burning through the storm like they were made of fire instead of ice. I stood there frozen on the sidewalk, clutching my bag like it was a shield. "Don't look at me like that," I whispered. "You have no right." He didn't reply. He just closed the space between us, each step deliberate, heavy, unrelenting. When he reached me, he lifted a hand and brushed the wet strands of hair from my face. "Why did you leave me, Jay?" His voice, deep, low, trembling with something that sounded like anger and pain, made my chest tighten. "Why?" I repeated bitterly. "You have to ask? Maybe because I got tired of being your toy. Or because watching you walk into that gala with another Omega nearly broke me." Something flickered across his face. Guilt? Regret? I couldn't tell. He took a slow breath, then said quietly, "Get in the car. You'll get sick." "I'd rather get sick than go anywhere with you. Jay." His tone changed. Softer, desperate even. "Please." That one word, please, was my undoing. I'd never heard him say it before. Not once. I hesitated, heart thudding painfully. Finally, I muttered, "Fine." He opened the car door, guiding me inside with a hand on my back. Even that small touch made me ache. The drive was silent except for the sound of the rain hitting the windows. I stared out, refusing to meet his eyes, though I could feel his gaze on me every few seconds. When we finally stopped, I realized we weren't at my apartment. We were at his penthouse. "I'm not staying here," I said immediately. "Yes, you are," I said. "Jay." He turned to face me, voice trembling slightly. "Don't run again." There was something in his expression that rooted me to the seat, a mix of control and vulnerability that I didn't understand. I hated how part of me still wanted to stay. He stepped out, came around to my side and opened the door. "Come on." I followed him in silence. The elevator ride felt eternal. When the doors opened, the familiar scent of cedarwood and clean linen enveloped me. His home was exactly as I remembered, sleek, cold, too perfect. Except now it felt like a cage. He took my coat and hung it on the rack, his fingers brushing mine. "You're soaked," he murmured. "Change before you get sick. Stop acting like you care." His jaw tightened. "You think I don't?" "I know you don't," I snapped. "If you did, you wouldn't have humiliated me like that." "I didn't." He stopped, exhaling hard. "Jay, that night wasn't what you think." "Oh really?" I laughed bitterly. Because it looked exactly like you showing up with an omega on your arm while I sat home waiting for a text that never came. She's my cousin. I froze. What? She's new to Seoul, he said quietly. My mother asked me to take her. That's it. My lips parted, but no sound came out. For a moment, the air between us hung heavy with confusion and shame. He stepped closer, eyes softening. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. I didn't think you owed me one, I whispered. I do, he said simply. Because you're not just my assistant. My heart stopped. Then what am I? He hesitated. Then instead of answering, he reached out and touched my cheek. Cold? He murmured. You're shaking. Before I could protest, he leaned in, pressing his lips to my forehead, a gentle, tender kiss that felt almost like an apology. Eun-woo, I breathed, his name slipping out like a secret. Don't run from me again, he said softly. I can't take it. He kissed me then, deeply, hungrily, like he was trying to remind me who I belonged to. I tried to resist, but my body betrayed me. His hand slid up my neck, fingers tangled in my hair, his scent pulling me under. When he finally pulled away, both of us were breathing hard. You still think I don't care? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. I don't know what to think anymore, I said truthfully. Later we sat on the couch, both wrapped in silence. The city lights shimmered through the window, painting silver lines across his face. He spoke first. You're right. I've been cruel. I looked at him, surprised. I don't know how to be gentle, he admitted. I grew up being told that alphas lead, that feelings are weakness. Then you came along, and you ruined everything I thought I knew. I blinked rapidly, not trusting myself to speak. You make me lose control, he continued, his eyes locking onto mine. Every time you walk into my office, every time you talk back to me, I lose myself. Then why do you act like I'm just another omega? I whispered. He exhaled, leaning forward until our foreheads touched. Because I don't know how to love you without breaking you. The confession hit me like a storm. My throat tightened. Then maybe you should learn, I said softly. He smiled faintly, sad, almost boyish. You'll teach me? I might. Good. He brushed his lips over mine again, soft, careful this time, like he was afraid I'd vanish. Because I don't plan on letting you go again. Days passed after that. I didn't return to the company yet. Eun-woo told me to rest, to take time. He worked from home sometimes, though he spent most of it in silence, watching me from across the room as if afraid I'd disappear again. I started to see another side of him. He wasn't just the cold CEO. He cooked breakfast once, scrambled eggs, badly made but earnest. He'd bring me coffee in the mornings, sit beside me while I read. Sometimes, he'd reach over and trace circles on my wrist absent-mindedly, as if reassuring himself I was real. One evening, as we sat by the window watching the sunset, I asked, "Why did you really find me?" He looked at me for a long moment before saying, "Because I can't sleep without knowing where you are." My heart skipped. That's not healthy. I don't care, he said simply. You're mine, Jay. I shook my head, smiling faintly. Possessive as ever. You like it, he said, smirking. I shouldn't. But you do. I hated that he was right. Because as twisted as it sounded, I did. I liked being wanted this much. I liked the way his jealousy mirrored mine. I liked that behind all his control, he was just as lost in this as I was. That night, as he held me close on the couch, I thought about how far we'd fallen into this strange, beautiful chaos together. Maybe we weren't healthy. Maybe we weren't normal. But for the first time it felt real. I rested my head against his shoulder and whispered, "What are we, Eun-woo?" He didn't answer right away. His hand slid to my waist, drawing me closer. Then, softly, he said, "We're something I don't ever want to lose." And as much as I wanted to demand more, a definition, a promise, I let myself believe him. Just for that night. For a while, everything felt almost normal. Eun-woo and I had fallen into a rhythm. Quiet breakfasts, long evenings, the occasional brush of lips that always lingered too long. He'd stopped being cruel, or maybe he was trying not to be. There were moments when I'd catch him looking at me like I was something precious, like he couldn't believe I was really there. But the thing about peace is that it never lasts long with him. It started with a call. We were in his penthouse. He on the phone, pacing near the window, I curled up on the couch reading. His voice had that clipped, business tone I knew too well. "Yes, tell the board I'll be there by noon," he said. Then he paused. "What? No, cancel dinner with her. I don't want to." My head snapped up. He caught my gaze and turned slightly away, lowering his voice. "We'll talk later," he finished quickly, hanging up. I set my book down. Who was that? Work. Work doesn't sound like her. His jaw tightened. "Jay." "Don't Jay me," I snapped, standing up. "You promised no more secrets." He rubbed a hand across his forehead. It's not what you think. I've heard that before. For a second, the room filled with silence so thick it hurt to breathe. Then he turned to me, his eyes dark and sharp. Why do you always assume the worst of me? Because you've given me reasons to. I told you before, she's nothing to me. She exists to you, I said quietly. And that's enough. He looked at me, something fierce and wounded in his eyes. You're jealous? I crossed my arms. Maybe I am. His lips curved in that half smile I hated and loved at the same time. Good. Good? He stepped closer, voice dropping to a low murmur. It means you still care. My pulse spiked. Don't twist this. I'm not. He reached for my wrist, pulling me gently toward him. You can lie to yourself, Jay, but I can smell it. Your heartbeat gives you away. His words made my face flush. You're impossible. And you're mine, he whispered, brushing his thumb across my jaw. No one else gets to make you jealous. I wanted to push him away to say something cutting, but his eyes, the rawness there, stopped me. For all his arrogance, there was something deeply human in that moment. Something almost afraid. The days that followed were strained. I pretended to be fine and he pretended not to notice. But every time his phone rang, my chest tightened. Every time he stayed late at work, I wondered if I was being foolish again. One night, I waited up for him. Midnight came and went, and the city outside blurred into streaks of light. When I finally heard the click of the door, I was half asleep on the couch. You're still awake? He asked softly. I wanted to see if you'd come home. I told you I had a meeting. I know, I murmured. I just needed to see you. He stopped in front of me, undoing the buttons of his shirt, and then knelt down so our eyes met. Look at me, Jay. I did. I don't want anyone else. Not now, not ever. Something inside me cracked open again, that dangerous, tender part that always betrayed me. I reached up, cupping his face. Then stop making me doubt you. His breath hitched. Then he kissed me, slow, deep, desperate. It was a kiss that felt like a confession, like he was trying to speak the words he couldn't say aloud. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. You drive me mad, he whispered. You make me want things I've never wanted before. Then want them with me, I said softly. He smiled faintly, but there was sadness in it too. You don't know what you're asking. The next morning, I woke up alone. A note on the table read, business trip. Back in 2 days. Don't do anything reckless. 2 days. I could survive that. Or so I thought. By evening, the company gossip machine was alive again. A message from one of my old coworkers flashed on my phone. Jay, there's a photo of CEO Cha with another Omega at the conference. My hands went cold. I stared at the image, Eun-woo, expression unreadable, standing beside a stunning Omega in a red dress. She was smiling. He wasn't, but that didn't matter. The picture said enough. My heart broke quietly this time. No shouting, no tears. Just emptiness. I didn't pack much, just my clothes, my wallet, my pride. I left his penthouse again, this time without looking back. I don't know how long I wandered. The days blurred. Maybe I was running from him, maybe from myself. But Eun-woo didn't let me run far. He found me 3 nights later. I was staying at a small hotel near the coast, trying to disappear when I heard a knock on the door. The moment I opened it, I froze. He stood there, coat unbuttoned, eyes burning like they hadn't seen sleep. Jay Park, he said quietly. You're really bad at hiding. I tried to slam the door, but he caught it easily, stepping inside. What do you want? My voice shook. You. Don't do this. I warned you, he said softly, his voice trembling. You shouldn't have run again. I had to, I said, backing away. I can't live like this, always doubting, always being the one who gets hurt. He stopped a few steps away, his gaze locking onto mine. You think you're the only one hurting? I saw the pictures, Eun-woo. He let out a short, humorless laugh. The pictures? You mean the ones from the press conference? The Omega beside me is my business partner's fiancé. Then why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't wait for me to explain. He stepped forward, voice shaking now. You always run when you're scared. You run and you make me chase you. And every time I do, because I can't stop. I stared at him, my throat tightening. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? He said. They're true. He was close enough now that I could see the storm in his eyes. I told you once I'd punish you if you ran again. I frowned. Eun-woo. Your punishment, he whispered, is to stay with me. Forever. You'll bear me a child, Jay. The words hit me like lightning. What? You heard me. You can't just decide that. I can, he said, voice rough, raw, almost breaking. Because I love you, Jay Park. The room went silent. He looked at me, chest rising and falling. I tried to fight it. I thought if I kept you at a distance I could control myself. But I can't. You're in my head, in my veins, in every breath I take. For a moment I just stood there, trembling. You love me? He nodded once, his voice barely audible. More than I know how to handle. My eyes stung. You're an idiot, I whispered. He laughed softly, relief and exhaustion mingling in the sound. Probably. Then I crossed the distance between us and kissed him, fierce, desperate, real. His arms wrapped around me instantly, pulling me closer, holding me like I was the only thing that could anchor him. When we finally broke apart, I pressed my forehead to his. You don't have to punish me to keep me, I said quietly. I know, he murmured. But maybe I just needed an excuse to never let you go. That night, I fell asleep in his arms, feeling something I hadn't in a long time, peace. It wasn't perfect and maybe it never would be. But for once I believed him. I believed us. And somewhere deep inside I realized, maybe I'd stopped being the prey a long time ago. Maybe I'd become the one who tamed the beast. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains, warm and soft against my face. For a long moment I didn't move, I just listened to the steady rhythm of his breathing beside me. Eun-woo's arm was draped over my waist, heavy and possessive even in sleep. I could feel the faint thump of his heartbeat against my back. I'd spent so many nights wondering what it would feel like to wake up like this. Not in anger, not in confusion, but in quiet peace. It almost didn't feel real. I turned slightly, watching his face in the golden light. He looked different when he slept, younger, softer, like the Ruthless mask had fallen away. I reached out and brushed my fingers along his jaw, smiling faintly when he stirred. Staring again? He murmured, voice still heavy with sleep. You caught me, I whispered. His eyes opened slowly, those dark irises pulling me in all over again. You should know by now, I always catch you. I rolled my eyes but my heart wasn't in it. You're so full of yourself. He smiled, not the smirk he used to wear but something gentler. Only when it comes to you. I sat up, clutching the sheet. You meant what you said last night? He didn't even hesitate. Every word. Even the part about the child? I asked carefully. He propped himself up on one elbow, gaze soft but serious. Jay, when I said that, I didn't mean it as control. I meant I wanted a future with you, something that's ours. I blinked rapidly, emotion rising in my throat. A future. Yes. He reached for my hand. I don't care if it's a child, a home, or just mornings like this. As long as it's with you. For once words failed me. All the pain, the jealousy, the confusion, it had led to this fragile, beautiful truth. You're really bad at this whole love thing, I teased, trying to lighten the weight in my chest. I'm learning, he said, squeezing my hand. Because you're teaching me. Weeks turned into months. Our relationship wasn't perfect. We still fought, sometimes fiercely. I was still dramatic and he was still possessive. But we'd learned how to meet in the middle. He didn't bark orders anymore, he asked. I didn't run when things got hard, I stayed. I'd gone back to work, not as his assistant but as his equal. He'd insisted on it. If I'm going to keep you close, he'd said, it'll be because you want to be here, not because I need to control you. We shared an office now, glass walls, endless paperwork, and a desk that always ended up messy on my side. He pretended to hate it but I caught him smiling more often than not. One morning as I was sipping my iced latte and scrolling through emails, he looked up from his screen and said, "Marry me." I nearly choked. Excuse me? He leaned back in his chair, utterly calm. You heard me. That's not how proposals work, Eun-woo. Fine. He stood up, walked around the desk and knelt beside me. My breath caught. Eun-woo, I said weakly. Get up, people will. Let them, he said softly. I don't care who sees. I stared at him, stunned. His hand found mine. You once told me you wanted the princess treatment, he said. So let me give it to you. My lips parted, but before I could answer, he continued, I know I've hurt you. I know I made you doubt me. But I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you're the only one I'll ever want. He smiled then, shy, nervous even. So, Jay Park, will you marry me? For the first time in years, I didn't have a clever remark ready. I just nodded, tears spilling down my cheeks. Yes, you idiot, I whispered. Yes. The office burst into quiet applause outside the glass walls, but I barely heard it. Eun-woo pulled me into his arms and kissed me, soft, sure, full of promises that didn't need words. Our wedding wasn't grand or public. He'd offered me a palace, of course, but I wanted something small, just us, a few close friends and the sound of the sea. I wore white silk, he wore black. When he looked at me as I walked toward him, I saw every version of him at once. The cruel CEO, the broken man, the alpha who'd finally learned how to love. When we exchanged vows, his voice shook. You changed me, Jay Park, he said. You taught me that love isn't control, it's surrender. So I'm surrendering everything I am to you. And when it was my turn, I said simply, you're still a mess, Eun-woo. But you're my mess. And I'm not going anywhere. He laughed softly, tears in his eyes. Good. Because I can't survive without you. We honeymooned by the ocean, far from Seoul's noise. For the first time, Eun-woo learned to relax. No suits, no phone calls, just us and the sound of waves. One evening, as we watched the sunset from the balcony, he wrapped his arms around me and murmured, "Do you still want that child someday?" I turned, smiling. Maybe. But not because you told me to. Because I want to with you. His eyes softened. That's all I ever wanted. He kissed me then, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that felt like coming home. Years later, I sometimes caught him watching me with the same look he had that first day in the office. Cold eyes hiding something fragile beneath. But now when I caught him, he didn't look away. He'd walk over, slide an arm around my waist and whisper against my ear, "You're still the most dangerous person I've ever met." And I'd laugh, leaning into him. Dangerous? Me? You made the cruelest alpha in Seoul fall hopelessly in love, he'd say with that rare, genuine smile. If that's not dangerous, I don't know what is. I'd kiss him then, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because somewhere between all the power plays and the heartbreaks, we'd found something real. We'd learned that love doesn't always start gently. Sometimes it's sharp, chaotic, a battle between pride and vulnerability. But when two people decide to stay, really stay, even the cruelest alpha can become tender, and even the sassiest omega can find peace. Sometimes, late at night, when the city outside is quiet and the stars spill across the sky, I think about the boy I used to be, the one who thought love was a game of power and pain. Then I look at the man sleeping beside me, still cold to the world but warm only to me, and I smile. Because in the end, I didn't just survive him. I loved him. And he loved me back, completely, fiercely, endlessly.